Dana White just did an emergency press conference. He announced a bunch of fights. He saved UFC 317, which is only a few weeks away. That didn't have a main event until yesterday. But the fans are split. Some of these announcements are great. Others are pretty lackluster. My name is Angelo. This is Josh Thompson, and welcome to another episode of Bad Takes. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Free Kane, baby. Hashtag free Kane. I think the fight announcements saved a lot of people, but I also think that it's going to cost you a lot of money, Angelo, because of these fight announcements. You should have bought 3 weeks ago. You should have bought tickets. You were going to International Fight Week.
What Josh is talking about is I've been to International Fight Week the last 2 years. My wife took me for my 40th. I went last year with Jacob. It was supposed to be the Conor McGregor card, and I had a great time both times. So I'm like, we're going to do it again this year. We booked the hotels, we booked the flights, but I didn't buy the tickets yet because they weren't for sale. Then Jacob sent me a text like last week. I'm on a work trip. He said, hey, they just put VIP for sale. And I like to do the VIP. The VIP is it's a normal ticket and then a little bit more money, but you will get access to like this full lounge. You get booze, you get food, weigh-in tickets, press conference tickets. Like it's a nice little package. And so I didn't buy it. I'm on the work trip. I came back. I went to go buy it. And the lowest tier was $5,500 per ticket. So I would have to spend $11,000. And at this point, 2 days ago, there was no main event announced. And I was like, this is absolutely nuts. So I haven't pulled the trigger on tickets yet. I could just go regular, not do the VIP. I don't need to be bougie about it. But they're still wildly expensive. And now the main event is Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira, which honestly, and I know people love Charles Oliveira, I don't think that's a good main event. I don't like it.
I think it's a great main event. I think it's a fantastic fight, but I'm also a lightweight snob. So someone who spent his whole career fighting in the lightweight division, one time at 143 pounds, but outside of that, I fought at 155 my whole career. And so when I think about fighters and like what they bring to the table, I think the lightweight division is probably, if not the most exciting division that's ever existed inside the sport of MMA. And so when I think, man, you have a lightweight fight that is headlining a card for International Fight Week, I think there's a good chance either Charles gets knocked out by Ilia or Ilia gets submitted by Charles. Those are my two things. I don't see this fight going the distance. Someone's getting finished.
It's definitely not going the distance, and Charles will be finished in the first round. That's why I don't think this is like, dude, Ilia Topuria just hits too hard. He's too clean. He's too good of a wrestler. What, Charles is going to bully him the same way he did Michael Chandler? That's not happening. And Charles gets dropped in 80% of his fight.
Are we starting this conversation on this is one of the worst takes I've ever heard come out of your mouth?
Dude, I'll bet you whatever you want right now that Ilia Topuria knocks out Charles Oliveira in the first 2 rounds.
In the first 2 rounds?
Yes, I'm positive.
Okay. What round did he knock out Bryce Mitchell?
The third, but that's different.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out there.
That's different. Bryce Mitchell actually has because Bryce Mitchell has a better chin than Charles Oliveira does.
He does? Okay.
Yeah, yes, he does. Okay,
so Bryce Mitchell, though, you're telling me that Charles Oliveira wouldn't just walk right through Bryce Mitchell?
He 100% would. He 100% would. Because
why didn't Ilia do that? Why did he struggle? I mean, there was moments where he gave up back position, everything.
He got taken down one time.
Yeah,
and that's because Bryce Mitchell is a better wrestler than Charles Oliveira.
Really? Did you not watch the Michael Chandler fight? Did you not see how he scooped the leg and took him down?
And Chandler's overrated and nonsense.
Did you not see that he took down a Division I wrestler out of Missouri?
Oh, now okay. See,
did you not see that?
Little twisty turny with the narrative here because it was Michael Chandler.
I'm only throwing out facts. I'm only providing the facts. I know you want to shape the argument to fit your narrative. Okay, like you sound like a Democrat right now. Okay, calm down. But what I'm simply saying, brother. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a tough fight for both.
No.
And I think if Ilia does win, he's got to win in the first 2 rounds by knockout. But I think if Charles does get a takedown, he's going to spend a lot of time on that guy's back. He's going to get to his back, and there's a good chance he's going to be able to get that finish.
I just don't see Charles getting a takedown. Ilia Topuria is a Georgian wrestler. And yeah, Bryce Mitchell was able to take Ilia down. Bryce Mitchell shot 29 takedowns in that fight.
He got Georgian wrestler. That's interesting. That's interesting. Just in my mind, like
it's like you're saying it like it's not a thing. Georgians, Marab.
Yeah, they have great wrestling. They have great, amazing wrestling. But
people just ignore
But
because his
let's not
hands were so
pretend
good.
like he was a world-class Georgian wrestler. Like because what
He did grow up wrestling.
he did
He's
not
been
grow up
doing
in Georgia though.
he
That's
spent the
what the
majority of his
difference is.
life.
He's literally from Spain. Like, what are you talking about?
He was in Georgia till he was like 8
His
or 9. Then they
heritage
moved to
is
Spain.
oh, he lived in Georgia till when?
I actually did this
Like
whole thing
3?
for his like 8 or 9 or something like that.
Didn't even
But
start wrestling probably till
his parents had both him and his brother doing Greco-Roman wrestling since they were like 6, and they've been doing that their whole lives.
okay.
And some
In
of it's just in
Spain.
your blood. Some
In
of it's just
Spain.
in your blood.
And how good is the wrestling in Spain compared to Georgia?
Listen,
I've been asking questions.
if you take a kid from Pennsylvania, he's a Pennsylvania kid, and at 8 years old, you move him to the most dog shit wrestling country. That kid's still Pennsylvania wrestling.
Oh
It's
my
in his blood.
gosh.
It's in his blood.
It could be in his blood, but he still needs coaching. Still needs coaching. That's not how this works, brother. Like, you need to have coaching to get you to that next level. He's a great stand-up guy. He's got great boxing, and I'm gonna give him a lot of props. I'm just sticking
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
guy with a knife right now. Poking fun at you. He's defensively probably one of the best fighters I've seen. He stays very tight with his defense. He makes you miss by just a slight margin, like a true boxer, and then makes you pay. He counters really well off of your throwing, like Max found out. Max leaves himself out of position a lot when he strikes, but he's got the length and the reach to get away with it, and the ability to get in and out really fast because of his length. That didn't work with Ilia, especially as he started to slow down and the punches became more predictable. In this fight, though, what you're going to see is, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see Charles Oliveira kind of weight bully him a little bit. It's going to end up being more like a Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler is a 190-pound fighter, 195, 198 pounds. He's a big guy. He's short, stocky. I think he's only like 5'2". Okay. But he's like, he's got a lot of muscle. He can still wrestle. He just could not stop Charles Oliveira. The grind, the push. Now, I know that he's getting older. Chandler is. And I'm not trying to compare them in terms of like abilities and where they're at right now in their career. I'm just trying to compare them in the abilities of, or not abilities, but body size, body style. The weight bully will happen. I think that Charles Oliveira, by the time that they fight, now they may be equal in size when they get in there in terms of weight. Okay, like Volkanovski weighed 172 or 75 or something like that when he fought Islam. Islam weighed like 178. They were very close in weight. Doesn't mean that he's going to be physically as strong as Islam is. I don't think that Ilia is going to be physically as strong as Charles Oliveira. I think Charles has been dealing with these guys at the upper weight class. It's just the bone. It takes time, the bone structure, all those things to develop the tendon strength to get in there. That's why Max, the second time when he fought Dustin, when he fought Justin at 155, he looked better. Not the second time, but when he fought at 155 the second time, he looked better than when he fought Dustin Poirier at 155 the first time, because he took time to put the weight on. He took time to carry that weight. That's what concerns me a little bit about Islam going up to fight JDM and Ilia coming in so fast up to 155. That does make a difference. And so I think stylistically, I think you're right. Ilia, if he does have a chance, it will be early in the fight, rounds 1 and 2. But if he does get taken down early in the fight, if he does get controlled at all, that'll start to zap some of his energy. Now, the power is the last thing to go. We know that. People talk about it. When you're tired, you still have that haymaker in you. And he stays tight with his defense, not a lot of wasted energy, so it's going to be harder to fatigue him. But if he gets put on bottom, he gets stuck there, or he gets his back taken and just taking shots and trying to escape and can't get out and has to defend all the time, it makes you a lot more tired than you think, especially in a 5-round fight.
Yeah, I mean, the knock on Charles Oliveira has always been he is a little chinny. He recovers pretty well. Like, he's not getting flatlined, but he was dropped by Dustin. He was dropped by Justin. He was dropped by Michael Chandler. I mean, he was dropped in all those fights, and then they follow him to the ground. He wins a scramble, and he ends up taking over. That's effectively how Charles sort of got to the title, kept the title for so long. Before, he fought somebody like Islam, who's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to come right at him. I'll take him down. I'm not worried about the ground. So I do think I understand why they did the matchup. Charles is a huge fan favorite. His fan base is tremendous, and I get it. Every single Charles Oliveira fight is exciting. He's a great guy, like all the things. I think my issue with this main event is, in my head, it's very one-sided. In my head, this is like not easy, but Ilia wins this. It doesn't even feel competitive to me. But also, there's a very obvious fight that they're not even considering, and
I
that's
know.
Arman Sarukian.
I know.
Arman Sarukian is the number one contender. It's not even questionable. He pissed off the UFC. I get it. He absolutely fucked them on a giant card. I get it. But like, how long your grudge with him is affecting the fans and all of those things. So I think that's my problem. If Arman wasn't the right, if Arman had lost, if he fought Islam and lost, then this is the fight to make.
Yeah.
But Arman is there on a wild win streak, earned his title shot, didn't get it for his own, it's his own fault. That I think that's my issue with this fight here is that like Arman's right there.
You know what concerns me, right? Is that I want to see Arman and Ilia more so than I want to see Charles and Ilia.
Yeah.
The problem is what happens if Charles wins? Then we see Arman and Charles again. Like it just like the fight to make really is Arman and Ilia. 100%. Their stubbornness is affecting our like, and to me that would have been a better main event.
Correct. It definitely, and you know what? I'm interested to see what the comments say because the Charles Oliveira fans are like rabid. They love that dude. So they may be going crazy.
Like the guy. He's
I 100% agree.
He's a great person.
No, I 100% agree. I think fight wise, and this is going to sound ridiculous. I don't want to say he's overrated, but I don't think there's a lot of holes in that dude's game. He snatches things up. He's got clean technique, but he is a little chinny. He can be out wrestled. We saw it with the Arman fight. So I don't think he's quite the GOAT or in that conversation at all as far as lightweights are concerned. I would have preferred to see the Arman fight. The UFC's sort of spiting him, which is spiting us. But I actually think the general public would rather have this fight than the Arman fight. Even though
you think so?
I mean, when I was arguing with Jacob about it, Jacob was all over that side.
Charles is the bigger name, some name value wise, I can agree with you on that. But I think for like nerds like myself, and I'll put you in the nerd category.
Yeah, I'm in that category. Yeah,
casual nerd though, but I'll put you in that nerd category. That the Arman fight to me is a lot more of a fight that I would like to see.
And it matters more for the division. Yeah,
yeah. It not only just matters more for the division, but it's to me stylistically, it's a way better fight. You're gonna see Arman's got power in his hands. He can wrestle the shit out of everyone.
Yeah.
Can he bully Ilia around? Will Ilia be able to stop his takedowns? Will Ilia be able to get up off the bottom if he does get taken down? There's a lot of things that are there, And if also it obviously clarifies whether Ilia deserves to be there. Fighting Charles, I get it, former champion, I understand, but the clear cut number one contender right now because he beat Charles is Arman Sarukian. So their stubbornness is really affecting the hardcore fans going, hey man, why is this not happening? We know why it's not happening because they're stubborn. And when you piss Dana off, you piss Dana off. But it's unfortunate for the fans.
And Ilia versus Arman would have been kind of a Temu version or a sneak peek into Ilia versus Islam. So if Ilia smokes Arman, defends those takedowns, puts that dude at like, if he beat that kid's ass, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Ilia versus Islam would have been competitive. And maybe something happens there. So I just, it is what it is. This is the main event. It's not the worst main event in the world, obviously. No. There was a more obvious fight to make there. They also announced the co-main event, Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. I mean, there's nothing to argue here. Like, this was the only fight to have done in this weight class. Like, I mean, Alexandre Pantoja just quietly beating everybody, and people who he hasn't beaten, they've just beaten each other. So there's really nobody else other than Kai Kara France for this sort of title shot. I do think it's pretty one-sided. Kai Kara France, obviously a great striker, got some decent power in the mix there. But I think Alexandre Pantoja is just going to do what he does. He's going to grind forward, get some takedowns, work, be sort of a bully. I think Pantoja wins that fight, but I'm perfectly fine with this matchup just because it's quite literally the only matchup to make at flyweight right now.
Yeah, okay, so I would agree with you. It is the only matchup to make, and Pantoja's not there hasn't been a boring fight that he's been in. He's been awesome ever since he's won the title. He's been amazing. I love watching the guy fight. He just doesn't get the credit he deserves because he's a little guy.
He's little, yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. Kai Kara France, I don't know how he's gonna do. He's gonna have to keep his back off the canvas. He's gonna have to keep his back off the fence. He's gonna have to try and make sure he works his way back up to the feet. He's fast as hell, but so is Pantoja. When you're talking about guys that are 125 pounds,
yeah, they're
like little gnats running around trying to fucking knock your head off. But they're both very explosive and both extremely entertaining to watch fight. And so I'm looking forward to that. Look, to be honest, when I started going through on the fight card, It doesn't matter how crappy the whole card is, but if you have two main events that actually deliver, these ones should deliver. Okay, as in, like, I don't see either one of these fights going the distance. Kai Kara-France either gets submitted or ground and pounded out, or Kai Kara-France knocks out Pantoja, which possibly could happen. And then in the main event, you've got Charles Oliveira, who I think could potentially knock out Ilia, but I think leaning more towards submission. I think he gets him, catches him in some sort of submission. And if he doesn't do that, then Ilia probably could knock him out in the first 2 rounds, maybe even the 3rd round as the fight goes on. Very, like, Charles Oliveira reminds me of an Eddie Alvarez, who never really got all the credit he deserved because he was chinny. Every time, from Pride days to Bodog days to Elite XC to Bellator, he got dropped a lot, comes back and just dogs through it and just F's people up. And that's where Charles is. And those are the guys that I love watching fight, because as a fighter, I know you've never fought a day in your life, but as a fighter, you just
fight against obesity every day.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better, brother. It comes down to, you want to know if you've got the dog in you. You want to know if you've got that quit in you. And Eddie proved it every single time that he didn't. Okay. Chandler's had, up until this last fight, he's proved every single time he doesn't have that quit. Charles Oliveira, same exact thing. There's no quit in him. Like, we've seen a lot of guys get dropped and all of a sudden they turn over in the fetal position and then they just tap, or they give their neck so they can get choked out and move on. Right? I didn't take any more damage, just gave my neck and moved on. That's not this guy. This guy's going to go out on his shield every single time. Charles Oliveira is. And I think Pantoja is the same exact way. When you go back and watch the Moreno fight, man, he was ready to die out there, that guy. And Kai Kara-France, I don't know. He hasn't been tested like that. And so this fight, to me, if I'm someone that's buying tickets at $11,000, okay, and I'm spending the $11,000, $5,500 a ticket, I'm going to sit there and go, at least I know I have 2 good main event fights that they are going to actually throw down and probably go out on their shields. They're going to try to lay it all out there. That's what you're looking for when I'm looking for main events, when I'm going to go to an event.
Yeah, it's UFC 317 is tricky because it is a pretty fun card. I'll read off the rest of these fights here. It's a pretty fun card as a whole, but it's supposed to be like the tent pole card. There's like 2 or 3 events a year that are supposed to be the biggest events the UFC does. UFC 317 is International Fight Week. Last year, that was supposed to be Conor and Michael Chandler. It's supposed to be the biggest event that they do every year. And it just isn't that big, but it is good, right? You got Ilia and Charles, Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France. The featured fight, if this even happens, is Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. That should be fun. Paulo Costa gets after it. He's fun in the press conferences. He can be a dog. We saw it with Luke Rockhold. And Roman Kopylov, phenomenal striker. That could be a good fight. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, that was supposed to happen, and the UFC had to rip it apart when Arman Tsarukyan dropped and they moved Renato Moicano up. That is a good fight. I cared about it then. I care about it now. Then we get to, like, all right, Janata Denise versus Justin Taffa. I mean, who gives a shit? It might be okay, but, like, who cares? Then we have Brandon Royval, Manel Kape. That's a good fight. That fight matters.
Fight.
Yes, potentially a title eliminator. Then we have Jack Hermanson, Gregory Rodriguez, another fight that's like, if you threw that on an Apex card, we'd be like, eh. And then we have Vivian Araujo, Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez, a little bit of a name there. Similar type thing. So it's a good card with some fun matchups. A couple of these are impactful, right? Renato and Beneil Dariush, that matters for the division. Royval Kape matters for the division. The rest are just fun matchups. So it'll be a good card to watch. You want to pay $80 for it on ESPN, I think you'll be fine. But somebody like me who's literally debating, do I spend all that money to go do it and do it right? Do I spend less money to get lesser seats and not do all the add-on stuff? Or do I just not go and potentially go to Chicago? Because they also announced the UFC 319 main event, and that's Dricus versus Chimaev for the middleweight belt. What did you think of that announcement?
I think it's a great announcement, and I'm looking forward to seeing that fight because I've told John this, and I've been saying this for the longest time. I get tons of Khamzat hate. The verdict for me is still out on him.
Yeah,
I'm not sold. I haven't seen a big enough sample size against the best guys. The ones that he struggled against Gilbert Burns in the 3rd round, got tired. Gilbert dropped him. You could say Gilbert dropped him to one knee. Like, Gilbert was dog dead tired and still able to land the shot.
And Gilbert's a 55-pounder.
Yeah, pretty much blown up. I mean, he's thick in the legs and got a thick trunk. You know what I mean? But DDP, if he can survive that first round. I was like, oh, what about Whitaker? I want people to understand. Whitaker has already said that whole thing with his teeth, it's happened to him before. His teeth have been pushed in before. It's happened. So when it happens, it continues to happen. He knew exactly what it was, and there's nothing he could have done about it unless you want to walk around with a different type of grill. You know what I mean? So his whole life, the only thing you're thinking is, man, am I going to lose all my teeth? And so you tap, you get out of it situation. That was, I don't want to say it was nothing that Khamzat did. It just so happened that that's happened to Whitaker before. He just hasn't. And Kamaru Usman comes in on 5 days notice, gives him a tough fight. Khamzat wins the first 2 rounds or whatever it was, loses the last round. That to me is, I'm just showing DDP is durable, very clunky, comes forward, always looks like he's dog dead tired, but keeps fighting hard. He's got power in his hands, a very big body frame for the weight class of 185 pounds. He has that herky jerkiness of a Keith Jardine. And Keith Jardine was a fantastic fighter, never champion, but a fantastic fighter. So I look at DDP and I say, hey, if I'm going to actually take the odds on this fight, I don't know what the odds are if they have early odds releases, but I'm simply saying I would lean more towards DDP. In a 5-round fight, I'm going to lean towards DDP because if he gets out of that first round, I think the fight starts to take a different toll going into the second, going into the third. I don't know how much of that has to do because of Chimaev having COVID and affecting his lungs, or is he just a fast twitch fighter? Because he is very explosive.
Oh, yeah.
Big power, very explosive takedowns. He used a lot of energy when he's trying to control. He's trying to get the finish. I admire that about him. I love that about him. But that is not how you fight a 5-round fight. And so that's where I'm laying this down and I'm going, hey, I'm looking at DDP going, if DDP survives the first round, I think he starts to run away with the fight.
So Khamzat Chimaev is a 2-1 favorite in that fight. Right now he's minus 190. So right there, almost a 2-1 favorite. And I agree with you. I think Khamzat is very good, but I agree because if you look at his wins, there's always something. It's either super fast, which you don't really learn much from that, or he's barely squeaking it out and he faded hard. Like the Robert Whitaker one. Yes, he dominated Robert Whitaker. He dominated him. Like I don't care about the teeth, whatever. It was quite literally too fast to know anything other than if he gets a takedown, you're kind of screwed, right? That's what we learned in that fight. Same thing when he beat Kevin Holland as quick as he did. The 2 fights that he really went the distance were Usman on short notice, and if that was 5 rounds, he's probably losing that fight.
Yeah.
Gilbert Burns on regular notice, but you could say he was at 170, and those are all things. Khamzat Chimaev, pre-COVID and post-COVID, are very different people. Khamzat Chimaev, because everything was he lived at the gym. This guy could go for years with cardio, never get tired. Then he got COVID. He was like hospitalized for it. He had a bunch of random illnesses. And he quite literally has not been the same since. He fights once a year. There's always random medical things. He had some skin. Like, he's just not a healthy guy. So we never got a full, I don't know what fight I can look at was like, okay, here's a full, more than 2 minutes, not a dog tired, barely squeak out type decision. Here's a full, perfectly healthy 185-pound Chimaev. We don't really have that. And I completely agree with the analysis. If he does not get DDP out of there early, he's screwed. He's screwed. Yeah. He might be able to get him out there early, though. DDP is sloppy. He finds ways to win, and it's crazy, but he is sloppy. And it's different being sloppy on your feet when you've got a good chin and you could take somebody down than being sloppy and getting taken down. It's very different being sloppy off your back when you have somebody like Chimaev on you. So it's going to be that, to me, is a great main event. That's a much better announcement than Ilia and Charles because I don't quite know what's going to happen, and I do feel like I know what's going to happen with the Ilia and Charles fight. So I absolutely love that main event, and I'm really looking forward to that. That's probably the most excited I'm going to be for a fight for a while because I don't really care about Merab O'Malley too. Saw it already. It's going to be the same fight. Ilia Charles, that'll be fun for about 4.5 minutes. And then Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, it'll be fun. Who cares? It'll be fun, but it quite literally doesn't matter other than it'll be fun. Where this is an impactful fight that matters very much and will be fun.
Yeah, I want to know who they put in the co-main event. Look, if you're going to get me to go to Chicago in August where it's humid and disgusting, you're going to have to really convince me, which they did with the main event, but I need to know who's the co-main, who is on the undercard. It's going to be a pay-per-view, I would imagine.
Oh yeah,
You know, I mean,
it's 319. Yeah.
one of your biggest your two biggest names on the card or in the sport. So I don't know. I'm leaning more towards DDP to win this fight. But he's got to survive the first round. And I think once he
Yes.
survives the first round, I think he's going to actually just start to like lay it on and put the pressure, big shots, stuff takedowns. And we're going to find out though, if Chimaev is the COVID situation affected him that much, or is he just a fast switch fighter that doesn't know how to control his energy? Does he have adrenaline dumps? Will he fight better after the third round and he gets a second wind? That's also another thing. Being able to see him fight. Like today, I went and trained jiu-jitsu this morning at 5 a.m. I did 3 rounds and then I was like dog dead tired. I'm like, man, I need to take a round. I took a round off, came back, did 3 more rounds, felt better the second 3 rounds, almost as if like my body just needed to warm up. Felt way
Yeah.
better. Okay. But then like I walked out of the gym, I was like, everything got stiff. And I'm like, trying to figure my body out. How do I get in and out of the car? But it felt great to get that work in, man. And some of these guys are really good. So it was kind of nice to be in over at Haji Reishi spot in Frisco area there. Anyways, let me ask you this. Jack Della Maddalena is a plus 206 and Islam is a minus 250 at betustv.com is where they have their stuff. Check it out. But anyways, I'm asking you, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that those are appropriate odds. If you ask Jacob, you'll get a very different answer. Jacob has been saying for quite literally a year that Jack Della Maddalena is the best welterweight on the planet. He's been saying it forever. He placed a bet at the beginning of the year that JDM would end the year as the welterweight champion.
What were the odds?
And I don't know what they were, but he placed that bet. He placed that bet at the beginning of the year. So like he felt very confident. And this was before this title fight was obviously announced. Then he was all over him to beat Bilal. So from him, he thinks he defends the takedowns and wins the fight. I don't quite think he's going to defend. I do think Islam wins this. Obviously, we saw improved takedown defense from JDM, but the question really is, was that improved takedown defense? Which obviously the answer is yes, but also did a lot of that have to do with when Bilal was shooting and Bilal's ability to close distance and things like that, where Islam probably a better striker than Bilal, certainly a better wrestler than Bilal, and it feels like a very, it's a 2.0 version of Bilal. Not quite as stocky, but should be just as big, a better wrestler and a better striker. So I think it's a tough fight for JDM for sure.
Yeah, listen to me, guys. I've trained with Islam for years. He was one of my main training partners, him and Habib, and also little Umar as well. The one thing I can say, he's 5'11", 6 foot. He's about a 6 foot. He's a 6 foot fighter. So when I say he's listed at 5'11", he's actually probably closer to 6 foot. On top of that, he comes into training camp. This was back, 5, 6, 7 years ago when he was coming into training camp, 188, 185, somewhere in there. Now he comes into training camp 192. So he's going to be perfect.
He's getting bigger and bigger for camps.
That's why he's going up. Is like the weight cuts too much. He's also it has to do with his body is fully matured now. Yeah. He is literally he keeps the weight on. He lifts all year round. He's committed himself to being a true athlete. He's not a baby boy anymore. Like this guy is a full blown man with skill levels like you've never seen. And I give you guys some stories. Is that he in the gym was better than Habib. He just had a big brother or little brother syndrome with Habib. Too much respect, never wanted to disrespect him, and didn't ever get like beat up, but just wasn't gonna allow himself to like try and one up his brother. And I respected that a lot about him. But his foot sweeps, his head kicks, his back leg head kick, and where the difference is going to be. Bilal is someone that shoots on the legs, tries to lift and scoop or pull your legs out from underneath you against the fence. That's not where Islam's going to make his living in this fight. He's going to make his living in that clinch. And in that clinch, he's going to dominate him. Inside foot sweeps, inside trips. He's going to end up over-unders and foot sweeping him. Go watch the Arman Sarukian fight. Every time they went to the clinch, he was able to foot sweep him straight to his back. So him doing it to JDM is not going to surprise me whatsoever. You will not see Islam diving down on legs unless he's in trouble. But I think if you're going to see maybe a single leg lift and scoop, try to elevate and then trip or sit him down on a single leg dump, you may see something like that. But I don't think you're going to see drive into the fence how Habib used to and how Bilal does, where they dive into the fence and try and lift and scoop. He's not that type of a guy. He's somebody that literally uses his upper body sambo style takedowns and judo style takedowns to get the fight to the ground. That's going to throw JDM off quite a bit. And in the striking, the kicks, I give Islam the benefit of the doubt. I think Islam's the better kicker. In the boxing, I'm going to give it to JDM. That's a fair analysis. But JDM does switch left and right. That will maybe give Islam a little bit of a problem. Islam is a straight southpaw. So how does JDM handle a southpaw fighter? I don't know. I've never seen him fight, or I can't recall back how he did against a straight southpaw fighter. So there's a lot of things to look at when you're taking a look at this fight. I think, honestly, this is about the right odds that I was thinking. I would have had it maybe a little bit closer, to be honest, but a plus or a minus 250 for Islam and a plus 206 for JDM. That's a little steep, I think. But I mean, if I'm leaning towards somebody, I'm obviously going to go with my boy Islam. I don't bet on my friends. It's like cursing them. So I don't bet on my friends. But I think that what you're going to see, because even JDM has it in his mind. He's already done interviews going, everyone thinks he's going to take me down and just submit me. That's exactly what I think. That's exactly what I think. I think he's going to take you down and submit you. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. And we saw that with the Bilal fight. He's very difficult to take down and hold down.
Yeah, and we also saw JDM go 5 full rounds, and he didn't seem to fade at all, where we've seen Islam fade. Obviously, up at 170, maybe he won't. Maybe the weight cut is why he's fading. Or maybe he will be carrying the extra weight, trying to move a larger human being around, and when we'll see the fade again. I love that matchup because there are questions. I agree. I think Islam wins, 2-1 favorite. About right to me. It's about right just because I think the skill gap in the wrestling is bigger than the skill gap in the striking. But if we get the same fight that we just got, if it looks almost identical to Bilal, it wouldn't be shocking. But I do think that Islam will actually get the takedowns. To your point, the foot sweeps and the clinch takedowns, those are much harder to defend. Every person that's ever looked at an octagon can defend takedowns against the cage. That's just where we are in this sport. Defending takedowns against the cage, spread your base, push the head, work the underhook, circle towards it. Like everybody's doing that over and over and over again. Training to not get swept in the middle without a cage, that's just a lifetime of wrestling. That is not, now you're relying on your scramble skills, and you're not going to out scramble them. So now it's a very different world. So, JDM, like you said, will have the clear boxing advantage, potentially a size advantage. Obviously, we know Islam is big, but JDM's not exactly small.
No, he's a big boy too.
Yeah.
I would give JDM the size advantage as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of like physical strength and weight, I think it's going to be very equal. They'll probably come into both around 190, 192, somewhere in there. And they're going to be about the same height. I don't know how tall JDM, but he seems like he's about 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah, I think he's right there. Yeah.
I think Islam is 6 foot. So they're going to be right there. There's going to be maybe a pound or two difference, I think, when they fully come into fight night. Skill level, though, in terms of all around skill level, I'm going to lean towards Islam. Not just because I've trained with him, but because I've seen and experienced every single moment of what he can do. And I'm going to be honest, you haven't seen everything he can do. You just haven't. Because having to deal with the lighter guys and the faster guys, you got to snatch those opportunities up as fast as you can. When they get a little bit bigger, there's less speed and less scrambling. So there's more opportunities for you to do what you want to do in terms of the cool stuff. So look for him to pull some tricks out of his bag. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Javier Mendez just did interviews talking about, I watch him spar all the time with 85 pounders and 205 pounders. He's taking them down. He's foot sweeping them. He's elevating them. He's tapping them. He's submitting them. These guys some of them are already in the UFC and some of them are in the PFL. Some of these guys are world-class fighters, and he's doing what he's doing to them.
So I have a test, right? When I go to a new restaurant, which I do fairly often, when I go to a new restaurant, I ask the waiter or the waitress, what's good? And they say, everything's good. And then I say, well, what don't you like? And they say, no, I like it all. Can't trust you. I can't trust you. There's no way everything. So I'm going to ask you, who beats Islam? So we'll find out if we can trust your Islam analysis or not.
Oh, I said this. I said this the other day. I think Sean Brady has a good chance of beating him.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't even care what name you were going to say, as long as the name was going to come out.
No. I think Sean Brady is the guy. And I will also say this. I will say this maybe because of the style, because he's so damn boring, Ian Gary.
Oh,
because
just stay on the.
he'll just run and he'll try to hit you, and that can get frustrating. Islam wants to fight. Ian Gary does not. Ian Gary wants to get on his bike and he wants to play taekwondo, touch you, move, touch. Great. That's your game plan. That's good. But yeah, it's not. I mean, I was just watching a fight with who did he fight? Something Green. Green's fighting this weekend.
Oh, Gabe Green.
Gabe Green. He hit Gabe Green with like a 15 punch combination, and Gabe Green didn't go down.
Yeah. You're talking about Ian Gary, yeah.
Yes, Ian Gary. I'm like, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah.
but I say Ian Gary gives Islam a little bit of a problem because he just runs so much. He's gonna give everyone a problem, but eventually someone's gonna get their hands on him and just strangle his ass. You know what I mean? But I think Sean Brady is somebody that gives him a really tough fight. And I'm not saying he's gonna beat him, but I'm saying that he's got a good chance. Grappling wise, they're probably, I'd say, close to equal. Physical strength, probably close to equal. Everyone I've talked to said that Sean Brady's fucking super strong. And I know people want to go to the Bilal fight, and I get it. He traveled to Abu Dhabi or Dubai or wherever they fought, somewhere in the Middle East they fought. Jet lag, the weight cut, all that stuff. Like, it just wasn't his night. And he even talked about it. He's like, and we've seen him get better, and he's fixed those issues. And now I think if he used to fight over here in the States and fight Islam in Vegas or whatever, yeah, it would be a very tough fight for Islam because on the feet, he's no slouch, but he does got some power. And in the wrestling, he's a damn good wrestler and he's got great submissions. So that makes for a very, very, and he's shorter and stockier. Those guys are always hard to deal with because
getting their legs.
Yeah, those Philly boys, man. I say this all the time. They have those rounded backs. Have you seen Eddie Alvarez's back? It's just rounded. Yeah. Who's the other? Joe Pfeiffer. Like his back is like rounded. Same thing with Sean Brady. Like, man, these guys, bro, they something in the Philly water. They're just, their backs are all bowed out, just big, and shoulders are big and big chest. I mean, I never had any muscles, so I just was stuck like being a Twiggy out there. But I think Sean Brady is one of those guys that gives him a hard time.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was going to get a name out of you because now I know I can trust it is objective and it's not just like, oh, I'll never pick against my teammate.
Well, no, what it is, honestly, and I've said this multiple times, I don't want to piss my teammates off by saying like I think Sean Brady gives them a hard go, but I have to be real with myself too. I want people to understand I'm 100% biased for my teammates.
Yeah.
But I also am very real. I'm very real with myself because I have to be true to myself because I don't want people saying, oh, you're just such a fucking homer. They say that anyways. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When I told everybody that he was
sometimes they don't even do the ER. It's just home. Oh.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting. Are we saying that these days? Right? Like
I think it's back. Yeah.
I mean, you're from Connecticut, you're a retard. Anyway. But yeah, I just when I said that he was gonna fight Charles Oliveira, and I said he's gonna be able to take Charles down and he's gonna submit Charles. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he does it in the first 3 rounds. Well, he did it in round 1. Okay. I mean, I said in the first 3 rounds. And everyone's like, oh, Josh called it. But before that fight, you're an idiot. Charles, the greatest grappler in the UFC, most submissions, all this shit. I'm like, guys, I've trained with him. I know how good he is. Like, he's phenomenal. Like, if it was Habib, I would have said he probably finishes him in ground and pound. But since it was Islam, I said he submits him. Like, just knowing what they're good at, what they can do. And that's where JDM is going to have to survive. Because when he attacks certain areas. He attacks that anaconda, that darce, the kimuras, things where he controls where your back is on the ground and leads you right into the submission. And then his squeeze is, I mean, ask anyone who's been tapped by him, man. His squeeze is nasty. It is a nasty squeeze.
And he snatches things up and scrambles. He doesn't methodically work towards something like Bilal does. Bilal works for the takedown, then tries to get to a position. Islam will create the chaos and grab something in a scramble. So a couple of really exciting fights, a couple of maybe missed opportunities if you agree with the Arman Sarukian. Let us know what you think of these new announcements from the UFC, what you think the co-main event should be for UFC 319. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I got one more thing. Like Dana came out and said, look, the heavyweight fight's going to happen. What do you think?
I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's just talking. I don't think it's going to happen because if it's going to happen, why wouldn't you have done it for 317? All right, maybe the timeline's not there. I just don't think it's going to happen. What I think Dana's
John's
doing,
in Thailand right now, living his best life.
And what I think Dana's doing, because every single thing he does is extremely calculated, and that's how the UFC is as big as it is, and he literally helped build this from scratch. What I think Dana's doing is trying to get people excited for it, trying to set that narrative, and then when it doesn't get done, he will blame it on John Jones, railroad that dude, and move on from him. I think he's literally setting us up to hate John Jones. He'll blame it on John. We almost had it done. I told you, sorry, couldn't get it done. John doesn't want to do it. And then it's like, oh, now we hate John, and then he can just move on.
It's Francis Ngannou. It was Francis.
Yeah, literally the same thing with Francis. Yeah, that's a good look at you. That's a good yes. The way he tried to get everybody to hate Francis.
Bad takes, good takes. Bad takes, good. Best takes is me, and bad takes you.
Yeah, sure. And the average is
But if you're Tom Aspinall, do you just move on? You like just if you come to the table and eventually you now all of a sudden you're walking the border of Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor.
And that's what's so tricky about it, though, because what's tricky about it is if you don't know how long it's going to be. So just like with Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor, if they told Michael Chandler it's going to be 2 years, of course he would not have waited, but that's not how it works in reality. It's like, hey, we're right there. We're right there. We're right there. We're right there. Then you're like, I'm 8 months into this. What's another 3? And then all of a sudden it becomes 2. Then they actually signed it and then it fell apart. But so I think that's kind of where Tom Aspinall is, where he's fought within a year, right? I think he fought last year. So it's like, we're so close. We're right there. Oh, just wait for him to fight Stipe. Then we'll get it done. Then he fights Stipe. We're trying to get it done. We're right here. So I think you just end up in this like almost. And then that ends up being a long time. So it's hard to say, just walk away, just ignore it, because it probably always feels like 10 seconds from now, you're going to sign it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like for him, man, there's nobody in that weight class that can beat him. I think Cyril Gane, outside of maybe catching him, like in a fluke.
Yeah.
I know he like to use that word, but Cyril Gane would have to catch him with a strike coming in on something. And I don't see that happening with his wrestling, his grappling abilities. I think Tom Aspinall wants to be champion for a while. And so I just carry on with your fights,
make your money,
make as much money as you can. You're still young, be as active as you possibly can, because you're in one of the weakest divisions in the sport. Cash out, man. Like I tell people this all the time. One of my biggest regrets is I didn't fight enough. I should have fought a lot more. There was always like, hey, we want you to line up with this. I was always looking to fight like the next best guy. And even though I was like always kind of in that top position, I was always wanting to fight guys around me. I should have just fought whoever, not every time they were offered to me. Sometimes even they were offered, like the lesser guys were offered to me, but it was like, yeah, well, because you're not fighting a top guy, we're going to lower your pay. I was like, no, that's not what we're doing. So that took some of the reasons why I didn't fight, but I should have fought more. I should have just fought more, because there was opportunities there that could have kept me busier, could have kept me more active, could have got me more experience. All of those things were a benefit, and I should have done that. And so I think if I'm looking at Tom Aspinall, he should just fight.
I definitely think he should, because there are some easy, obvious matchups. I think Cyril Gane's a good one, and there's money to be made, and you're young, make your money. For you, I mean, obviously you accomplished what you accomplished, and your brain might not literally be functioning at the capacity it is now if you got 10 more fights in. Like,
that's true. You might, right.
So it's easy to look back and say I should have done this, but who knows? That might have changed the entire trajectory. So
yeah, because if I'd have had 10 more fights like a Gilbert Melendez and Tony Ferguson fight, I would have fucking destroyed.
Like, yeah, I mean, literally, like a couple. All it takes is a couple more wars and your random slurred speech. So I mean, you can't do that. But Tom Aspinall at this point, best in the world, not making them, because you got to make your money when you can make it, because it could all go away instant. Look at Bilal Muhammad. I mean, we'll see. Armin, look at Armin. I mean, the money was there. It didn't work. I mean, so he's a bad example because he doesn't need the money, but very quickly that money goes away, or the opportunity to make the money goes away. So you got to make it when you can make it, especially if there's a couple of easy matchups. So
yeah, that's what surprised me about Chandler. Like, I know what his contract was, because I know what Bellator offered him, and they had to match and they had to beat it. So they did. And so I know I know around the ballpark of what he was making. He should have been fighting as much as he possibly could have
every week.
Yeah. I mean, I would have been like, yo, give me signed up another. I was not waiting around for the Conor situation. It just wasn't going to happen. And
that's just life changing money, though. If it happens, like that's like
Yes and no. It wasn't as if he was going to make a little more, but in terms of sponsors, he was making more. His fight purse was already kind of what his fight purse was going to be. Plus
Pay-per-view points.
He doesn't get pay-per-view points. He was never champion.
I thought main eventers they'll give
No.
pay-per-view points too.
Nope.
No.
Champions do. Connor gets it because Connor's Connor, but everyone else, you have to be the champ. Only the champ gets pay-per-view points. Cain Velasquez lost his title. Next time he fought main event, didn't get pay-per-view points.
Oh, really? It come and goes. Oh.
Yep.
No,
yep. Only if you're champion. Now, I'm sure there's some fighters that have it, based on the negotiations or whatever it was. Like, hey, I'm going to take less based on if I can draw, then I get more. I'll get pay-per-view point. But the pay-per-view model sucks right now. It's destroyed. So
it's the numbers are declining. It's a hot mess, and a lot of it has to do with these cards that we're getting. But let us know what your favorite announcements are that the UFC made, what announcements you were disappointed they didn't make, and how you feel about that UFC 317 main event. I'm Angelo. This is Josh Thompson, and thanks for watching another episode of Bad Takes.